Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel for a South by Southwest 2022 interview with the team behind I Love My Dad. James, Patton, welcome to the channel. Huge congratulations on your movie.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Barry.
All right. So with a festival premiere, some of our viewers might not know what your film is about just yet. So James, I'm going to give this duty to you. Can you tell everybody what I Love My Dad is about?
Yeah, for sure. So I Love My Dad is about a divorced dad played by Patton who is cut out of his son's life. His son's going through a tough time. Patton's character is worried about his son, and no matter what he does, he can't find a way to connect with him. So he creates a social media profile of this girl and sends a friend request to his son, and his son ends up falling in love with this girl. Patton was just trying to make sure his son's okay, but he then has to keep up this thing with his son because his son gets more and more invested as time goes on.
Job well done, but you left out a key detail there. This is kind of based on a true story.
And I guess the key detail is that it's based on something that happened to me when I was about 20 or so, which I'll get into now. Basically, my dad and I got into a big fight, and I blocked him online, and I was going through a tough time. He was worried about me. I got home one day. This really pretty girl had sent me a friend request on Facebook, and I was really excited. And this story was born. It ended up being my dad.
Hey, all right. So, yeah. Patton, I got some questions about your involvement here. Now, first, okay. This isn't a directorial debut for James, but he's still a newer voice behind the lens. So what was it about him and this story that made you think, yup, this right here is a project and a filmmaker I need to commit myself to right now?
Well, the script was fantastic, and it really went where this story would go. There wasn't any shying away from any of the cringy elements, but also the hilarious elements, a lot of which were hand in hand. And I'm a big film buff, and I like working with newer voices, writers, directors, and especially when I read a script this ballsy, it had that feeling of, I just want to see if we pull this off. You know, like the fact that this kind of there are very specific challenges set up in the script. I wanted to see if we could pull those off.
You're also involved as a producer here, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe it marks your first full producing credit on a feature film. So
yes, this is the first full feature film.
Producer can mean a million and one things. So what inspired you to take on that role with this film? And then also, what does producing mean to you in general? What are some of your favorite elements of that role on a film set?
I think the two best, most important elements of producing are keeping meddling away from the auteur or the mind or voice of the film, and then also being able to suggest who you think are the best people, based on your knowledge, for other roles in other departments to kind of land the vision that the filmmaker has. I mean, that's what all the best producers have always done. People like Polly Platt and people like that. So, I was trying to keep myself within that realm and that mindset, putting it together.
I feel like Patton early on helped me so much, just like figure out who were going to be the right other people to join us in the cast. And it was a pretty late in the game decision for me to play the role of Franklin. Yes. And that was the decision that Patton helped me make, because I went over to his house and we screen tested me playing the role of Franklin, because we were like, is this gonna work? Do we both feel comfortable diving into this? Because it presents a lot of opportunity, but also a lot of challenges. And so I feel like Patton really helped me navigate some of those trickier decisions. And then throughout production, I mean, Patton was the first when Patton came on board, that's when the project really came to life. And he had, I've been a fan of Patton since I was a lot younger. I remember seeing him in Big Fan a long time ago. And he has an ability to tackle really delicate subject matter with a lot of heart and levity. And I think that's what this story needed. And so throughout production, I would sometimes come to him and be like, how do you think we can thread this needle tonally? And he would always be super helpful in helping me execute in those ways.
I have so many questions about the tone of this movie and how you guys pulled it off. But first, I want to go back to what you just brought up about the casting. I have so many questions about this now, but I guess, Patton, I'll throw it to you first. What was it about your earliest meetings with James that signaled to you that this movie would be better off if the director and the person who went through this experience was also starring in the lead role?
Well, that was you sort of answered your own question. He has been through this experience. He knows the damage that was done, and he also remembers probably the giddiness and the euphoria of when he was under the spell of the con, more or less. But also, I just thought that it would make a little more sense if the part of the son was a little bit older. I know that we were looking at some much younger actors, but there's that instinct of, if a kid is 17 or 18 going through some stuff, you just go, well, it's a phase, he'll get through it. But once they're in their 20s, then there is a real danger of this is how they will be for the rest of their lives. And I think any parent watching this will understand, oh, you've got to step in. So they're really, I wanted that element to be there. And in the early reads and the early, test screenings, James just really got into that fragility and got into that, oh, this could decide the rest of this person's life. Made it way more, dire.
So now, James, for you, what was it like maybe writing the script with someone else in mind and then you filling the role? Did that part of the process wind up making the character that we see on screen even more true to your own experience?
Yeah, I think I wrote it for myself to play. I think I had that in mind. But then when it came to actually executing, I was like, there's no way people are going to let me do this. Like, it's my first bigger film. They're not like, this is a crazy ask to be like, I want to direct this and play the lead. It's like, no, you can't do that. Like, get out of here. But I had Patton was really the first person to be like, dude, let's do this. Like, you can do this. And when he got on board with that idea, then everybody else did too. And yeah, I think for me, I don't know, it added like this level of like meta excitement to the whole movie, where it's like I wanted it to be as hyper personal as it possibly could be, to the point where it almost felt like too personal. Like, I wanted to almost have too much skin in the game, because it adds this level of extra cringe, I think. Like,
yeah. That's great.
What would you, so I've seen the whole movie. A lot of people watching this during South by Southwest will not have seen the film. So I kind of know my interpretation on this. But what would you say to someone who kind of reads a little bit about your movie and basically says, like, that's ridiculous, that's terrible, how can a father do that to his son? What would you tell them to be more open-minded, and I guess kind of maybe explain some of the additional layers that they're going to see in I Love My Dad?
Yeah, I think Patton and I talked a lot about this early on, that's part of the fun of the premise, how dangerous it can be, and how delicate we need to approach this, because it could so easily go into this dark kind of potentially gross territory. But Chuck is never coming from a place of like wanting to be romantically involved with his son. Right. He's really trying to help his son. Like, he loves his son, and he wants his son to be okay. So and we show through the movie, like, this is really his last hope at making sure his son is okay. And I think part of the fun of it for us was to get the audience complicit and on board with such a ludicrous action, like, part of me wanted to understand in writing it, like, what would ever bring my dad to do this and make it okay? Like, why would he ever think it was okay? And so I really wanted to take the audience on that journey of like, well, here's how you get to a place of thinking this is okay, and then being trapped by this action you've taken, so that you have to go further and further with it. but never having it be from a place where, but having the audience always be understanding of why the father is doing this.
So for you now, Patton, is there a core quality in Chuck that was, I guess, really helpful in that respect? Something that no matter what he did over the course of the film, it always made it certain that all of his actions were coming from a place of love.
Yeah, he wants to be good to the best of his ability. And the key phrase there is to the best of his ability, which is not that good. In a weird way, it reminds me of the character in, this is going to sound very pretentious, in the film Amadeus. Salieri loves music. He just has no talent for it. That Chuck loves his son, but he has no parenting skills. And I think that is you can have both of those. You can totally love your kids, but be the worst person to be raising them. So that is made very, very clear early on, that there's no malice in this. There's no he's not trying to get one over on his son or get back at the world. He is doing a selfless act in the absolute worst way he could go about doing it.
My heart. This is such an extreme scenario. My dad has never catfished me in my life, but it's like applying this idea to certain things that make so much sense to me, but he views in a different way or doesn't fully understand. I don't know. It's like thoughts like that make me appreciate big extreme movies like this, because it helps me process truths that I either couldn't or just wasn't aware of before.
Yes, it really ends up going into some very interesting places, and it never judges any of the characters. Not only does it not judge Chuck, it doesn't judge the son, the ex-wife. Everyone here is trying to do their absolute best, and it's the trying that's where the love is coming from, not necessarily the success of the effort.
Of all the scenes in the movie, maybe without getting too far into spoiler territory here, was there any one that was the most difficult when it came to balancing the comedic tone with respecting the severity of the situation?
I mean, I feel like Pat and you and I are going to be thinking the same one here. Do we get into it, or do we?
I don't want to reveal it. Let me put it this way. I'm going to put this very delicately. There is a scene that is, and I'm not saying this is a brag, it is the height of hilarity and cringe, where it is the last act. It is the last loving act of a desperate man that absolutely should not be being committed. And people watching the movie, I can, the way you're looking down, but you know the scene we're talking about. You know exactly the scene we're talking about. Oh my God, you're crawling out of your skin watching it. But there's a reason that he's doing it. Oh God.
I'm fairly certain I know what you're talking about, and I
can you know what we're talking about.
All of those things. All right, let's make James blush a little here. So, Patton, can you tell us about James's approach to directing his actors? What is something that you really appreciated about his approach to that part of the job that you're excited for other actors out there to get to experience on his future films?
Well, he's definitely, you know that you're in the hands of someone who is thinking about the film all the time. He's not showing up on the same day that you're showing up and being, if you're showing up confused, he's not confused. He has thought through these scenes, and he is open to talking to you about them. And if you get lost, he's willing to listen and go, oh, I can see what's going on there. He has thought through every aspect of this world, of these characters. So you at least know that you're in good hands if you are making some attempts or making some choices that don't quite land. You feel safe doing that because you got a guy there who's been thinking about it the whole time.
Always love that quality. All right, James, there's one particular role I wanted to ask you about directing, and it's Claudia's performance, because that seems like one of the most exciting characters to play when they're involved in the text message scenes, because it feels like it's part some of her interpretation, it's part what Franklin wants her to be, it's what Chuck is making her out to be. So what was it like tackling that role with her, and what are some of the earlier notes you gave her?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a complicated and fun character to play, because she has to play the real Becca in the diner, and then throughout the film she's appearing as what Franklin is imagining the texts that his dad is sending him would sound like if they were embodied in this girl he thinks is sending him the messages. And so I think in terms of directing Claudia, she and I wanted, the three of us really, we had rehearsals together where we were trying to craft like, okay, here's what the real Beck in the diner feels like. And then this is what this person appearing to Franklin should feel like. And sometimes we felt like it should feel very much like she is Chuck, like she has this secret, like she knows that she's actually Chuck. And then at other points we felt like it should really just be that she's exactly what Franklin is imagining her to be in those moments. And Claudia's pretty incredible in the film, I think. I mean, she went very deeply into the role, as I think everyone in the cast did. I think Patton set the tone on set of like how real it needed to feel. Like he brought such authenticity to everything he did and was so prepared every day, so that and through all the conversations we had and everything, he set the bar very high. So when Claudia came on board, she wanted to jump in as deeply. She ended up working some shifts at the diner.
That's right.
And that her character did. And so she went above and beyond to make sure that this thing felt real. And I'm excited for people to see her performance in the film.
Yeah. And she created such a real and alive character that some of the most startling moments in the movie is when the dream Becca goes blank, when Chuck is trying to think of the next thing to say, and she is just sort of buffering, if you will. It's very strange to see those moments. It's really startling because she's been so alive in different ways up to that point, and she just nailed it. Amazing performance.
I thought I had enough of folks trying to bring DMing and text messaging to life on screen, and I've never quite seen it done this way. And it was very exciting to me.
Yeah. I think that was a part of it that we felt the same way. We were like, we've seen it. We've just seen so much of it, but it really, so much of our life and our relationships are just like texts on a screen. But the timing of when they come through, and it feels like you're really in direct conversation with this person. But so much of the experience you're having is your own projection of what you're thinking, you're reading in so fully and so intensely into everything the person's saying. And so it feels like the person's right there, and it really is the person exactly what you want the person to be. So we wanted to just physically show that.
You'll emphasize different words in a text to suit whatever your needs are, even though it's just a neutral sentence, but you can change that to make it work for you, which that's what leads to so much of the tragedy in this film.
So very specific situation again, but there's some very universal concepts that have ingrained themselves into my brain. All right.
Yeah.
So as we wind down here, looking to the future. So someone goes and sees I Love My Dad. James, can you tell us what some of this is a big question, but what some of your goals are in the future and what kind of films you're eager to direct from here on out?
I want the films to feel like you hear the log line and you know that they're gonna be like exciting and uncomfortable, but in a really fun way. A part of this film that kept me engaged the whole time was just like how personal it felt for me. And I want all of my films to feel that personal, whether or not they're based on literal things that happen to me. I want them to feel like I have a lot of skin in the game as the storyteller, and that there's an element of risk to whatever story I'm telling, where that if it's done wrong, it could be done really wrong. Those are the movies that I'm attracted to, because it feels like you're watching the filmmaker and the creatives involved walking a tightrope, and it keeps you kind of like, you kind of want the person to fall, but when they don't, it feels like they've pulled off a magic.
It's exhilarating.
I love that.
You keep me coming back for more with that description. I love it. All right, Patton, I got 2 upcoming questions for you, or one potential upcoming, MODOK season 2. So I'll be fully honest with you. I didn't think MODOK was going to be for me at all. Like, I almost didn't even watch it.
Wow.
And then I did. I feel like I'm first getting acclimated to, like R-rated adult animated series. And I've been discovering like so many wonderful things that, yes, are like big and raunchy, but have so much like thematic resonance to them that I'm surprised are sticking with me. And I feel like MODOK was one of them.
It's weird. First off, I can't say whether we're doing season 2 yet. When you work for Marvel, you sign NDAs that are the size of phone books, so I have to be very circumspect. But it's weird that you bring up MODOK because there is some really warped connective tissue between MODOK and I Love My Dad, and that MODOK is an equally catastrophically horrible husband and father who is trying, and actually even worse than Chuck, actually thinks he's nailing being a dad. Whereas Chuck at least has the decency to be desperate and sweaty in what he's doing. MODOK has this undercurrent of "you're welcome, I'm really nailing this," where he's just destroying the lives of everyone around him. And as far as like R-rated comic book stuff, there's been a nice. I don't know if you watched the new season of Peacemaker or Harley Quinn on HBO Max. There's just been amazing strides forward. Also, that show The Boys, where if someone is superhuman, it means their emotions and their faults are also going to be superhuman, and that's going to lead to more insanity. So, we really leaned into that when we did MODOK.
Well, no matter what happens, I appreciate season 1, and I am rooting for season 2. All right,
thank you.
One more question for you, Patton, because this is all I've heard about recently is about how you predicted Boba Fett's survival. So I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. Give me another film franchise prediction. Is there any other character that, like, years and years down the line, we're going to see crawl out of a Sarlacc pit or whatever applies to them?
Well, if we're talking about, like, underused characters or characters that should be used more, I think that Marvel is going to realize they had an amazing franchise in their laps for free in their Netflix shows with Misty Knight and Colleen Wing, those two actors. Someone in 5 years, hopefully sooner, will realize, do that. A low stakes, gritty, street level superhero noir with those two characters, Misty Knight and Colleen Wing. They're sitting right there. So I'm predicting that someone at Marvel will realize what they've got and they will run with it.
Every time I want someone to manifest something, I'm coming straight to you.
I'm pulling all the energy I can. I'm summoning the multiverse.
I love it. All right. I got to let you guys go. You got a lot of South by Southwest celebrating to do. Huge congratulations on I Love My Dad. James, I can't wait to see more from you. And Patton, for years and years, you keep delivering. So keep it up.
Oh, thanks.